In today's video, we are going to be talking about another AEW wrestler who has re-signed with the company. Also, in addition to that, a WWE legend may be appearing at WrestleMania as a surprise, maybe setting up a feud. I don't know. It's very interesting. And then also, Tony Khan talks a little bit about AEW not being at WrestleMania Weekend, despite the fact ROH will be. Now, for more videos like this, don't forget to click that subscribe button. Don't forget to click it. And if you want, you can weigh in on the conversation using the Discord server or just simply leave a comment. I try to respond to as many of them as possible. Let's have that conversation. Let's talk about wrestling. Trish Stratus recently had an interview with Jay Brody from the B Team mornings on 102.1 radio. This is a very, very interesting thing because, you know, one of the things that she kind of alludes to is possibly returning to WWE at WrestleMania 38. Now, one of the things that she specifically says that I kind of want to dive into, she says, I don't know. Listen, I always say I bring the boots with me everywhere I go because I've learned it's like you guys, in reference to the interviewers. It's like you guys, would you always bring your mics, you know? You never know, there might be a random interview, got to have them handy. I'm assuming I am going to. Of course, I will bring my boots because you just never know. So she's basically confirming that she is going to be at WrestleMania 38. Now, is she actually going to be on television? Are we going to see Trish Stratus actually return to TV in some sort of segment or anything like that? Now, there has been a lot of talk in the past year, a little bit of social media back and forth between Sasha Banks and Trish Stratus. This is obviously a dream match that people have been talking about for a while. And hell, you know, we just saw Lita return. Lita had her dream match with Becky Lynch, and that took place at the pay-per-view in Saudi Arabia. Now, you know, I think WWE has an opportunity. You know, with Sasha Banks and Trish Stratus, there doesn't have to be a title on the line. In fact, I would say it is incredibly important for WWE to start being mindful of the women's division and having females in meaningful feuds that don't revolve around the title. And I think, you know, there's a whole bunch of stuff with Sasha Banks and Naomi going for the women's tag team championship belts. Just an idea here. Maybe Trish Stratus and Lita can go face to face with Naomi and Sasha Banks, you know, if perhaps maybe they win those titles at WrestleMania. Nonetheless, I think it would be really cool for WWE to eventually go into one more singles match for Trish Stratus, whether it's at SummerSlam or WrestleMania 39. I think WWE has to pull off all the stops in Los Angeles. Imagine WWE has Naomi and Sasha Banks win at WrestleMania, Trish Stratus and Lita tag team. That can be like a tag team feud for a little bit, and then eventually that can kind of layer off and branch off into a singles feud. I think it's got to happen if you're WWE. You know, again, you got to have meaningful feuds that aren't always for the title. And right now, the women's championship picture is Becky and of course Bianca Belair, and then of course you have Charlotte and Ronda Rousey. This could be a really cool way to do something without having that women's world championship belt involved. What do you guys think about that? Also, in addition to Trish Stratus and everything that's happening in WWE, I want to turn our attention to AEW. Tony Khan publicly talking about, you know, not hosting events at WrestleMania Weekend. Now, this is something that he's talked about before, but today he was on Busted Open Radio and he was discussing ROH Supercard, which is obviously taking place during WrestleMania Weekend. Now, in the past, Tony Khan has been very adamant about not being involved during that weekend. That weekend is for WWE. He respectfully agrees that like that weekend should be WWE's weekend. And also, I just don't think it really makes sense. If you're AEW or ROH, at this point, you know, they're building a super company between two different brands. I think it's really important that AEW continues to focus on theirs. So at one point, maybe Double or Nothing or All Out or whatever could eventually become as big as WrestleMania. I think that would be the goal deep down. Now, with that being said, Tony Khan says, I only know one way to do pay-per-view, and it's going 100% and doing the best you can. I promise to make that pay-per-view great. Now, this is in reference to ROH Supercard of Honor. I know there are a lot of people who are going to be around the Dallas Metroplex around that time. This is going to be my first time going out there for that particular event weekend. It's not normally something I would do. It's not normally something AEW would do. It's something AEW would never do, and we're not doing it. The event has been scheduled in advance by Ring of Honor, and the tickets had been sold. I felt the right thing to do. The right thing to do would be to do right by the fans and have the show and make it the best show I possibly could, even though it's unusual for us to go into enemy territory and run a show that weekend. Now, he also goes on to acknowledge that this weekend is something that is big for the smaller companies, which I think is a great point for Tony Khan to make, because of course, there's always going to be this conversation as to whether or not WWE and AEW are killing indie wrestling. And, that's a whole different conversation for a whole other video. But Tony Khan is obviously not trying to be the guy that hurts indie wrestling. By him having AEW on a crowded weekend as it is, it could very well hurt independent wrestling. Also, he really just, Tony Khan also talks about the logistics and everything like that. So here's my assumption. This is my prediction based on what we've heard from Tony Khan. I don't think AEW or ROH will have a event during WrestleMania weekend ever again. And, with Tony Khan, I've said this before, with Tony Khan having AEW and now purchasing ROH, Tony Khan has a relationship with Impact, New Japan. He has a relationship now with DDT Pro Wrestling, which obviously includes Joshi's. And there's just so many great things that Tony Khan could be doing right now. I think in order for AEW to successfully run a stadium show, the caliber of WrestleMania, I think it could be better done and executed with all of these companies together. And I've always mentioned, you see Lollapalooza, the music festival and stuff. These become a really big thing for music. I think AEW should be able to do this, and teaming up with independent wrestling companies and teaming up with these other larger companies. And this way, wrestling fans have two massive events to look forward to, right? You get WrestleMania and then whatever this global phenomenon is by AEW. I think that could be really massive, and I don't expect this to be a situation that just gets swept under the rug. I think it's a situation where, like, if the cards fall into place, AEW would actually do it. But very cool to see Tony Khan respects the tradition of WrestleMania. This will probably be the last time we see it happening, and I look forward to seeing what ROH Supercard looks like. Now, with that being said, guys, AEW has been re-signing people, not re-signing people. Well, interestingly enough, we now know, according to Fightful Select, Ethan Page has re-signed another contract with AEW. Now, I find this to be very interesting news, considering Ethan Page just joined AEW. I want to say it was in 2021, so it hasn't been a very long time since Ethan Page joined AEW. Now, originally when people signed to AEW, there was longer term contracts, right? People signed for 3 or 5 years. It appears that wasn't necessarily the case. Now, Ethan Page will be sticking around a little bit with AEW, and I do think this is a good move for AEW and Ethan Page. I really enjoyed his work and Impact with Josh Alexander, and I think eventually Ethan Page does need to break away from this American Top Team Scorpio Sky thing. I would like to see him become a singles guy at some point. You don't have to rush into it. I don't feel like AEW got it right with him, and I don't think AEW got it wrong with him. I think he's there. He exists. You see him on TV, but he's not really become a star yet. And it's not that he can't become a star. I just think, from my point of view, I just think AEW hasn't really put him in that position just yet. Obviously, there's a lot of other people that come before him, but that's why I'm glad that they re-signed him, because I think eventually he will blossom in that role. Now, it's going to be very interesting to see how things play out, but yes, Ethan Page is still with the company, and he's going to be with them a little bit longer, and I look forward to seeing what they have planned with him. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. As always, I'll keep you updated 7 days a week. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button for more.